And hello, chat. Wait. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. We have some sound issues again.
Oh no. Can you guys hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, now they can. Yeah, I think it's alright now. Sorry guys, it's very early morning for me. Uh,
That sounds good. All right. So let's start from the beginning here. We've missed quite a few moves.
yes, let's do that. They play very fast today.
And just a quick recap, you guys. Aleksandra Goryachkina actually took the lead momentarily and won as white, and they've actually had 3 decisive games in a row. So they've been playing some pretty exciting chess. Ju Wenjun fought back and won 2 in a row, once with white to equalize, and then to take the lead as black, actually. And so now we're in game 11. Goryachkina only has 2 games left. She needs to tie the match. If she loses this, that's it. No game 12. So this is very important for her, playing with the black pieces. So, yeah, starting from the beginning. Ju Wenjun starts off again with the e4. She's going for the Roy Lopez, as she's done previously a few times. And I believe every time she's played with e4, it's ended in a draw. So definitely something comfortable for Ju Wenjun.
Yes, she
Um,
definitely doesn't mind it today.
yeah, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same move as you. So
Oops, sorry.
I'd like to compare this to previous game that they played. I wonder if they played the same exact line. If not, it's super similar.
Yeah, they've been
Let's
playing
see.
this opening many games.
Okay, so it varies a little. Believe this was game. I think game 4, Ju Wenjun. No, hold on. Might be game 6. Actually, so we did commentary for game 7, right?
Yes, but
So the game before.
that was D3 instead
Yeah,
of this
yeah. The game
change.
before that in game 6, instead of the move d4 on move 5, uh, Ju Wenjun went for the rook e1, taking back the pawn on e5. So just a slight difference. Let's see. Did she sacrifice a... No, okay, so this is an interesting line. Can you go to move 5?
Yes, so here, knight e4, she goes d4.
Yeah, and so the knight responds with knight to d6, attacking the bishop, and Zhu Wenjun actually doesn't respond to that threat. She takes on e5, so hanging the bishop momentarily. I've actually never seen this opening out of the Ruy Lopez, but I'm assuming this is some sort of theory, or at least well known.
Yeah, the thing is, after a4, the knight has no
Is
safe square to go to.
exactly so. Giving up that bishop pair, but she's got a strong pawn on e5, which could be a thorn in the center for white. but also importantly, you have a pawn imbalance in that white has the pawn majority 4-on-3 on the king side, and black has a 4-on-3 on the queen side. So actually, no, I'm too slow. We really need, maybe I really do need to catch up. So d5 is pushed, white captures back en passant, and it's completely balanced in terms of the pawns. You just have the E and D pawns missing from the center, and black has the bishop pair, and white has a knight and a dark square bishop. So it looks like white, though, might have a slight edge in terms of development. Black is yet to castle, and I think traditionally so far in this match, Ju Wenjun has been up on the clock out of the openings. And this game is no exception. She is definitely ahead in time by a decent amount. Not anything special so far, but and I believe Goryachkina has done well towards the end game to catch up on the clock. So we'll see. We'll see what she does with the time and space advantage, I guess you could say so far.
Yeah, so white is definitely comfortable here, assuming she is fine with two draws. Goryachkina will be the one who will have to try to win. If not today, then tomorrow.
Yeah, she definitely needs a draw or a win today. Otherwise, there will not be a game tomorrow. So
Yes, we of course want the match to go on, so we will see you guys again. So now we are at this position. White has very comfortable position. They already castled. They even have rook already activated. While black has a bishop pair. Do you think they will go for bishop c5?
for black, Goryachkina, it is developing with the tempo, definitely. Um, I think the queen, though, would like to move. Actually, that move has just been played, so you called it on the spot. But like I was saying, the queen wants to move because I think the dark square bishop there is kind of impeded a little bit by the queen. So maybe we'll see something like queen to g3 here, looking to get the bishop out.
Also
But at the same
taking
time,
g7 under control.
yeah, so looking at g7, and if you have short side castles by black, you could even see bishop to h6 threatening mate pretty soon. So
And of course, queen will be also tied to protecting c7.
yeah, that's true. Um, Yeah, I think if Queen G3 is played, I don't think Black could castle. I don't see how they defend the mate without giving up the rook by playing G6. So, and also the rook on D3 is doing a good job of blocking the Black King from going queenside. Um,
Yes,
Not
so
that they would want to go queenside, but I think it's interesting that the rook is also kind of like you said, it's developed on D3, but it might be awkwardly placed.
yeah, very often early develop of the rook is not good because it can start being attacked. But of course here position is somewhat simplified already, so maybe it's okay.
Yeah, I think. Do you think Ju Wenjun wants to go for a win here, or do you think she's okay with trading everything off? Because I think she probably wants to press for the win, even though she's playing an opening, the Roy Lopez that has resulted in nothing but draws so far for her.
Well, I think she's fine with a draw, but she's looking for opportunities, being at the same time cautious, because of course the previous games showed that you can never be fully comfortable with your um, lead. You should be always prepared to get into trouble. This match has been up and down.
Well, as white, you would hope that every time you get the opportunity, you would try to go for the win. But like you said, a lot of pieces have been traded off so far. So, um, we'll see. Maybe there's some sort of balance. And also Ju Wenjun demonstrating in the previous game that she can win with black. Maybe she's comfortable going into a game 12.
Yes, she already had a loss and a win. Few losses with black and a win with black, so she is comfortable going to the game 12,
So
needing a
Ju Wenjun
draw.
does play. She does play Queen G3 here. Looking at that G7 pawn. And what exactly is Black's king doing? You're not going to castle, are you? And let Bishop H7 happen.
Bishop h6, you mean?
Oh, yes, H6.
Yeah, of course, immediate castle is not an option here.
So how do you defend G7? Oh, wow.
Yes, so you defend it with
F6.
f6, prepared to play rook f6 after a castle and a bishop h6.
Yeah,
Yeah, note
so
that Ju Wenjun did not spend almost any time yet. But of course she has psychological advantage. A massive, comfortable advantage.
well, even though she hasn't used any time, I think Goryachkina responded with F6 really quickly as well. So she must have seen this after having played Bishop to C5.
Yeah, this looks like the only option for black. Otherwise white can quickly gain um, control over the d file, develop the last piece, and it could be really dangerous for black if they don't castle very quickly.
Yeah, so now Black is finally in a position to castle and can meet uh, Bishop H6 with a bunch of different moves.
Of course,
Um,
if queen takes on g7 now, black,
well, Rook G8.
yes, black obviously will play rook g8,
Mm-hmm.
and white is either losing a queen or gets mated.
Yeah, not really much else in terms of options after that position.
But we have a good question in chat. Is king going to f7? That's also an option.
King to F7. That is interesting, to say the least. Opting out of castling, maybe castling by hand, but
Because then we keep control over the d8 square. The difference is if we castle bishop h6 and we play rook f7, then we cannot play rook d8. While with king on f7 we can put the rook on d8, and there is no bishop h6 move. So this is also an option. Maybe she Maybe she's about to decide that, or maybe she did make a decision.
Well, okay. What does I think White's plan is first off, I would say develop the dark square bishop, and then would you want to play rook a to d1, doubling up the rooks?
Probably. Probably we want to do that. We can
Do
play
you think
bishop f4, somewhat attacking on c7. I'm not sure if we want to take there or not, but that would.
do you think White's gonna look at like bishop f4 here, attacking the c7 pawn
I
as
think
second
so,
defender
and black might even have to defend on c7.
with
Rook c8.
rook c8? That's not the best move. I mean, it might be the best move in that position, but it's not a pleasant move to have to make. Um, because you don't want your rook on c8 staring at your pawn on c7, you know? So white definitely might have some sort of opening advantage here, and black is going to have to find a way to equalize.
Well, if we look at it, now black wants to play queen b6 probably, attacking b2 pawn and potentially playing c6 to release pressure from c7. But of course first they need to solve the castle problem.
Yeah, so
It
black
looks
has a
it looks
couple
very unpleasant for
dilemmas.
black.
Yeah, it's like white's always developing with a threat, and black can only respond to them one at a time. So if she can definitely get some sort of counterplay, like you said, attacking b2, that would be a pleasant change of pace for black. But how they do that exactly with all the threats that white has is
Yeah, they look like one move short every time of creating any counterplay, but Goryachkina proved to be an excellent defender. So we'll see. Looks like an exciting game.
I wonder if white has any way of defending g2 such that queen taking on g7 is an actual threat at some point. But I don't really see how they can do that right away.
Well, they could play knight to e2 and knight to f4, but then they're taking the diagonal away from the bishop. I think bishop f4 looks the most natural.
Yeah, for now, definitely. And getting that last rook into the game, either doubling on d1 or maybe even trying to pin the bishop on e6 by going rook e1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rooks definitely have a lot of options. White can also look into moving the rook to g3, for instance.
Oh, once the queen leaves and then rook to g3.
Mm-hmm. Although, of course, the the more diagonals are opened, the more comfortably bishops of black look like having a lot of control over white squares. I mean, that squares in a white camp.
Just really quickly on a side note, did you want to address the charity stream idea that we're doing today? I think we should have probably started off with that at the beginning.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a bumpy start. I'm sorry, guys, with all the setting up, streaming from new place again, as you might be able to see, but at least we solved our sound issue from last stream. So uh, if you probably noticed a donation goal which we have, which is called Help Ganic Chess. Many of you, especially Russian-speaking viewers, know Mikhail Lushenkov, known on Twitch as Ganic Chess. And you probably also noticed that he has not been streaming for the last couple of weeks. Unfortunately, Mikhail, he has a serious health issue which much worsened recently, and he is now in coma, unfortunately, and the doctors are fighting for his life. He already had one operation and he needs two more, and Mikhail doesn't have anyone close to him to help. So the chess community, his friends are doing everything we can, and he has the best doctors taking care of him. But it's gonna be a lot of work, and he has to fight as well. Even after the operations, if everything goes well, he will still have to go through a lot of recovery. And right now he only got back to consciousness for a few minutes once, and he still is unconscious now.
Yeah, so if you guys have anything to help with his battle, it would be much appreciated. Yeah, we don't have the full details on everything. We just know that he is in a coma and he doesn't have a lot of support from family. And yeah, this is the least that we could do and try to help out a member of our chess community. So again, anything helps. And yeah, we would definitely appreciate it. And I know that he would definitely appreciate the generosity. So
Of course, we will wait him back to streaming at some point. And if you guys also want to discuss questions, who it's Ganic Chess, it's a Russian streamer, international master. He has been streaming for more than 2 years. You can look for a Discord link on his channel and join his Discord. There has been already some fundraising going on there, and you can join his community and share your support there as well. Yes, we hope that everything will be fine. I personally know him for 15 years already, much before I joined Chess.com and before we all started streaming. Right, so Bishop
right.
f4 has been played.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was the move that we predicted. Attacking the c7 pawn. And now black decides to just castle and to leave it. So let's see. If we grab that pawn on c7, and I know a lot of people, myself included, are pawn grabbers. You have to think of the consequence. So what exactly could be an issue with grabbing on c7? I'm thinking maybe like rook c8, and then you have to move the bishop back. But I don't see any clear follow-ups for black.
I think the idea of black is to gain activity with the bishop being away from attacking the king. Obviously, bishop h6 was one of the ideas. Having this bishop pair, maybe black is planning to take control over some diagonals. Maybe some move like rook a to e8, taking the e file. Computer is suggesting move bishop c4, which looks interesting.
Yeah, that I was kind of hinting at earlier, saying the rook was kind of awkwardly placed on d3 because of a move like bishop to c4, hitting the rook. And honestly, I feel like the rook would either go back to d2, still trying to double up on the d file, or maybe just try to go to f3, but that also seems slightly awkward. Um,
Yeah, with the rook on f3, the knight is really stuck protecting these two
and
squares,
d5.
the e4 and e2,
Mm.
because the
Yeah, I wasn't even considering the e2 square. But yeah, bishop to e2 could be
I mean the knight
trapping.
doesn't really have any square to go. And now some move like b5, yeah, with idea b4, I guess, also looks nice. And suddenly white pieces are quite awkwardly placed, so this looks like a poisoned pawn.
Yeah, so just a couple moves ago, we were saying that black
And
has
she
a
did
lot
take.
of. She did take.
She did take.
Very nice pawn grabbing. Let's go.
That's just I cannot hope for more. It's just exciting.
Yeah, so we'll see how much compensation black gets. I wouldn't go as far to say it's a poison pawn, but like I was saying a couple moves ago, we were saying black definitely has a lot of issues that they had to solve, and so they seem to have solved them with a combination of f6 and castling short side, just giving up the c7 pawn. And now, when white had all the moves and all the threats, it seems that they've taken the pawn, and now it's black's turn to kind of hit back. So it is a pawn, but for Goryachkina, she might be justifying it by saying now it's her turn to kind of play the moves that she wants to move and not have to respond to white's threats, and just kind of get on with the game. So
Yeah, if Ju Wenjun wins today, the match is over because she will have 6.5, and there is no way to come back for Goryachkina, and that's why Aleksandra is not happy with the draw. She is not going for something safe. She is still trying um, to open the position and put problems for her opponent. Goryachkina has to draw. I don't think so. When you come up to the last game where you have to strike back, it's very difficult.
Goryachkina needs a win either today or tomorrow. Nothing beyond that. She has to find something. So this is one of her two chances that she has. Beyond that, that's it. So we'll see just how crucial the win uh, that Ju Wenjun had as black will be. But I think in a match at such a high stake as this, winning with black is huge. So we'll see if Goryachkina can do the same here today. Okay, so we do see the rook on d3 is being attacked by the bishop, but not from c4. We're seeing it from f5, which is also x-raying the c2 pawn. So I think probably we will see rook to d2. Um,
You think rook d5 is looks too dangerous?
Rook d5. You know, okay. Giving the c2 pawn back, but trying to get rook counterplay. I I don't know. I don't know if rook d5 works, but I was looking at a move rook or bishop to d6, attacking the rook, and then when you take, you have a mate threat on g7. But I think they could simply just respond with rook from f to d8.
Yeah, black moves the rook away and two pieces are hanging, so this
Yeah, so that probably
then
wouldn't work.
take. Then bishop e7. And again rook goes to d7, attacking this bishop.
Yeah, so that doesn't work.
Although no, this might be... No. Yeah, that's fine. Bishop f6.
No, queen takes.
Yeah, so it's just exchange up.
Yeah, so not a good line for black. I mean for white, excuse me. But yeah, bishop or I mean rook to d5 is a bit more interesting than that. Giving up the pawn, but who knows? Maybe there's gonna be some trouble on the c file. You play rook to c1, attacking the bishop, and then you have a knight discovery. Well, actually, the knight is what's defending the rook on d5 in that line. So I don't know. I don't know how you would move the knight because you're trying to reveal an attack on the bishop on c5. But so far, I'm not seeing it.
White probably wants to play bishop d6 here after bishop c2 to trade one of the bishops of black.
Well, here do we have the same issue with rook to d8, rook from f to d8?
No, here the bishop
Oh,
is
you take.
hanging.
Oh, hold. Yeah, you take the. Well, then they can take the bishop back with the queen.
But then I guess rook gains. Rook goes to 7th rank. And it's in white's favor to trade pieces, go to the comfortable endgame.
That is true. So, getting the queens off.
Yeah, and here the rook will go to... The second rook will go to the 7th rank. So black really
Yeah,
has to trade the
or
rooks.
rook e8. Yeah,
Rook c8.
that's true. So that would be a line that would tend more towards a draw. Do you think the Goryachkina would be okay with the draw here and try to push us with white in game 12?
Yeah, of course,
Because
if the position has no chances for any counterplay, she will not push and lose also this game. She can only push from position which allows it. She has to be okay with the draw. That's true.
I think maybe the simplest move here would just be rook to d2, and then we would probably end up seeing bishop to b4, right? Pinning the knight to the rook and threatening to double the pawns on the c file.
Yeah,
And you
and
probably went a
it
pawn back that
was
way.
played.
Okay. So nothing too fancy
No.
with rook d5. Um, just defending the pawn on c2.
I personally liked the bishop to c4 more, to because bishop from c4 also controls d5 square. But of course, in this case, you are taking the bishop away from protecting the king. Now black has bishop g6 in case of any danger on g7.
That's true. So here I'm really expecting bishop to b4 from black. Because then once you get a rook on c8 and take the knight, double the pawns, maybe black would be the one entering a favored endgame.
Bishop to b4 immediately. What? That's interesting. White wants to play knight d5.
Ah, looking at the e7 square.
Yeah, so you cannot take because of the fork.
A big family fork there.
And bishop is hanging, so black would have to retreat back to c5. And then white plays b4, and that's a big problem. So bishop b4 is a mistake.
Well, good thing I'm not the one playing here.
For the World Championships.
It looks like a good move trying to double the pawns, but yeah, knight to d5. I was considering the knight pin to the rook, but clearly the knight has bigger ambitions trying to get to e7.
Yeah,
So
and that's why she played rook d2, not rook d5, I guess. Knight on d5 is a very nice piece.
yeah, so the knight actually might be trying to get to d5 regardless. So yeah, what you were saying about bishop to c4 was definitely looking over that d5 square. So what does black do here? I don't think that you necessarily have to.
Maybe rook f7 to attack the bishop and to protect e7 square.
That is a good point. Although knight to d5 does defend the bishop. Knight d5, and then you could potentially even be threatening like queen to b3, lining up against the king, but the king could just go over to h8.
Also bishop
Or
e6
you could
is
see,
possible.
yeah, bishop e6, definitely, for sure.
Now the knight to f4, attacking this knight. And I guess rook takes is not good because of knight e6. Rook e7, knight c5. And white has extra pawn with no compensation.
Yeah, and the queen can't take back on e6 because then you'd leave the rook hanging on c7.
Yeah. Or if the queen takes, then also knight e6. It's the same story. Black has to either trade the queens or the pieces. Once black loses one of the bishops, it seems like this pawn compensation is gone. Right now this bishop looks really nice.
Oh, which bishops?
The black
on
bishops.
c5 and f5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Goryachkina definitely is going to try to utilize the bishop pair to its full extent here. So yeah,
on queen f2, f4, we can take on c2, and then take the bishop on c7.
okay. So getting the pawn back.
And probably getting equal position. Although white probably will not change the queens now, and put queen more centrally. Now probably knight e4 is somewhat a threat.
So we did end up seeing rook to f7 hitting the bishop, and the bishop just retreated to f4.
So white decided to keep the pieces on board.
Yeah, bringing the bishop back where it's less liable, and better protected. Now can bishop b4 be played?
I think she played. At least I see it on the board. I mean bishop b4, sorry. Yeah, bishop b4 can be played. Yes,
Because we don't
now
have the
there is
knight
no
d5
95
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. So I think what's interesting also is let's say black didn't play rook f7 and white had
Oh,
an extra move.
I think we missed a donation. I didn't see it in the chat, but
Yeah, I see 2108. So yeah, whoever donated, it could be a bunch of different people, but seriously, we really appreciate it. And thank you very much.
yeah, I will get an update in. Fortunately, we don't have on-stream alerts, but I will definitely announce it once I get information. So, what can white play here after bishop b4? I'm assuming the move. No, the move is not on the board yet. Computer
I don't.
brings some crazy ideas. Would you play bishop b8 as a human? Like, this move would never come to my mind. Just like
Now
that,
that,
cutting
yeah,
off the
that is
rook. Why not?
threatening to trade after rook to d8 check.
We are being told in chat by Murfinsky that Karpov did play the same idea. That's why Karpov is a world champion.
Well,
And we
that's
are
the
not.
thing. Rook f7 definitely helps to defend like g7 and e7 and attacks the
But
bishop on c7, but it gives up that
yeah,
extra rook
it
protection on the back rank.
weakens 8th rank.
Exactly. So, and just to double check, bishop b4 has not been played yet, has it? I think that might just be part of your analysis still, right?
Yeah, I'm just analyzing the most
Okay.
obvious move. The other idea is rook d7 to trade this, to to try to take control of the file.
Okay.
But then, in case of take, like, we have to move one of the pieces from a better square. If rook queen d7, then another rook comes with a
With
tempo.
tempo on d1, exactly.
It is a tempo, but there is also a move rook e8. And if white takes, it's a mate.
Interesting. Yeah, so getting the last rook developed with a threat. So white would have to first address the mate threat before actually threatening to take on d7.
Yeah, so white would have to play h3 or h4. Then queen gets back to c6. Although I have to mention, black is still pawn down. They gave up this pawn for compensation, for some space, for activation of the bishops. But the closer white gets to the end game, the more problematic this absence of a pawn will be for black. Getting two rooks on the third file to avoid losing tempo. I'm not sure what you mean. Both of rooks to the third file, third rank. Bishop before has been played, so we can continue
Okay.
analyzing this. Black still has pressure in c2, that's true. But pressure is not a pawn yet.
I think eventually at some point Ju Wenjun's probably gonna give up a pawn back, because it might just be too annoying to try to defend everything. And you might end up getting in a worse position. So like for instance, right now the threat is to double the pawns on the c file.
And
And then
then black has
rook c8.
semi-opened file, yes.
Yeah.
The pawn has
Yeah.
to fall at some point. So white is doubling rooks on d file.
Mm-hmm. And here as black, I wouldn't be so eager to take on c3 right away. Would you?
Yeah, we can also play. Oh, sorry. Yeah, rook, probably rook e8. Now
Okay.
white can still play h3 or h4 to just to make sure that there is no back rank mate threats. I think h4 looks nice with some ideas to attack on the king side.
Yeah.
Now black can double the rooks on e file. It's a dynamic position, but at some point black has to take on c3, of course.
I wonder if you could play something like rook d8 as white and trade off a pair of rooks. And then maybe even still you could get knight d5 in at some point, hitting the bishop on b4.
Well, the thing is, black doesn't have to react to this move. They can
Yeah.
just keep the rooks like that and simply take the pawn on c2. And then black is the one who might start pushing because c3 is still weak.
I think it would
So
be really
white.
cool if if uh if the black bishop wasn't on b4 or just wasn't protecting e7, you could play rook to d8 as white, and then if bishop takes c2, then you follow up with that knight d5 plan, and you're threatening that fork again. But fortunately for
Yeah,
black, the
the
bishop's still guarding it. Um, so like Yeah, the threat is knight takes e7 and the rook's pinned to the king. So you'd be forking the king and queen. And if the rook takes on d8 instead of taking back, you would do knight takes e7 intermezzo. Uh and then you could take the queen. But or actually before taking the queen, maybe well, maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I'm thinking king f7, you couldn't take the rook on d8. But anyways, none of these lines are possible thanks to that bishop on b4 guarding the e7 square. But these are just ideas. Like white definitely has a lot of tactics in the air in a position like this.
This position still looks okay for white, but of course giving up a pawn probably is not what Ju Wenjun wants so easily. Rook d4, bishop c5, rook d2 maybe. This might become tricky for white, because now black will take another pawn. Let's see what they played. So rook d1, rook d1.
So as black, would you be concerned that white's threatening to trade off at least one pair of rooks here? Or do you think that's kind of inevitable?
I think it's fine because currently it's only the rook that is protecting c2. So if you trade a pair of rooks, you have to bring another rook to. If you trade one rook, you have
Yeah,
to
you
bring
get the pawn
another
back. Okay.
to protect c2. So the white rook cannot really move away. So black decided to trade on c3 right away.
Yeah, they took immediately, which I honestly thought was somewhat surprising because normally you don't want to take pin pieces. You kind of want to maintain the pressure and build up on it. And here, White's offering a queen trade, saying if you want to double isolate my pawns on the c file, you're gonna have to get the queens off first. So we'll see if Black wants to play on or
Well, black can also take on a4, but then the queen goes to a rim, and white's pieces are really centrally located. So maybe a4 is not a good square for black queen. Yes, the white pawn is still extra pawn. But right now, black can trade. So the rook on d2 is pinned to protecting c2, while rook goes to c8, attacking c3. So here black has definite compensation for a pawn.
yeah, it's actually kind of hard to to look at any other moves for Black after you see, queen takes c3. I feel like Black has a ton of compensation. Um, but maybe here, maybe just rook d8, trade off a pair of rooks, and although there is a block,
Yeah,
rook
rook
f8
f8.
block,
I think that's what we would play.
and then
Then
if
rook
rook takes
f8,
f8,
king
then
f8.
king would take f8. Yeah, not taking the rook off the c file. Um, maintaining the pressure on the double isolated pawns. One of them's definitely gonna fall.
Of course, this position looks like leading to a draw, especially that its opposite color bishops. Rook can also go to b1 to attack b7, give away these 2 pawns, take b7, activate the rook.
Yeah, and the bishop on f4 is guarding any rook to c1 checks. So
So black also can play bishop e4 to protect b7, but then bishop d2.
bishop d2. You could also try to defend it by bishop d6 check and then bishop to b4, but that is, I don't know, a little awkward.
Ideally
If
would be to put the bishop to d4, but we're not in time for this.
yeah,
And then black can take on c2 at any moment, and then on a4. And this cannot be anything but draw.
yeah. So another thing I wanted to mention really quickly is back when black had the bishop pair, um, you could argue that you don't want to take the knight because it was a pin piece and because you don't want to give up the bishop pair. But another thing to think about is that white is left with the dark square bishop, and you're giving up the dark square bishop for the knight, and so you would go into an opposite colored bishop endgame, which is something that really should be considered because more often than not, I feel that those types of endgames are leading more towards a draw.
Yeah,
It's a
it's.
lot harder to push for a win.
But of course, I don't think Goryachkina seriously looks for playing for a win here with black. So now the queens were traded and the rook went to c8, just as we expected. This might end very quick.
Yeah, I was just about to say this is a lot of pieces traded out with a lot of time left on the clock. So the good news about a draw today is that the game tomorrow, you will definitely see Goryachkina's biggest fight.
Fireworks.
Oh yeah, at least one would hope.
Yeah, we definitely want Goryachkina to strike back. Well, I personally want her to strike back, of course. I'm rooting for her, but also it will mean that we will have the tiebreak on Friday.
Oh yeah,
So Rook d8 is on the board.
yeah. So we'll probably see Rook f8 here.
Taking on d8 is also fine. Following up by Rook f8. And after trading, c2 is falling while the black pawns are on white squares. But even if this pawn is protected, it's still most likely a draw because of the opposite color bishops.
Yeah, I think the one thing black has going for it, besides just the weak pawns on the c file, is that normally a lot of people see f6 as a weakness, but here, especially with the rooks being traded off, the king can use f6, whereas the white king would have to kind of walk its way over to like f1 or push a pawn first, because now entering the end game, you want to try to activate the king. So this black king is probably going to try to get over to those weak queenside pawns and try to see if they can stir up any trouble and get a pass pawn of their own. I just think the black king might be a little bit faster, but no, interestingly, Goryachkina trades off on d8. Maybe just trying to get as much rest in for the next game. Her game is white.
No, I think she just knows that there is not much difference. Maybe wants to have more time for preparation for tomorrow. And feels like she exhausted all the chances in this game. Yeah, so I guess the rook doesn't have really any square to go to except for trade. Could do rook d2, but then rook to c8 back.
So here's white. Are you expecting the rook trade? Or do you think the rook's going to go somewhere else?
I think there is no point for trying. Yeah, she takes.
I think just based off of the game so far, it was pretty apparent that the pieces are all going to be traded off, and I don't know how many moves left do you think they have in the game before they?
It's 15 more moves according to the regulations.
So they have to get to move 40 first before anything's settled.
Yeah, they would need to repeat them. Maybe that's what they're talking. That's what they're thinking about right now. How do we draw this?
So
It's obviously a draw, but okay. So a5.
yeah, a5 clamping down on the b pawn, and black goes for king f7. Utilizing that f7 square after the f6 pawn push. Not taking on c2 right away. Just kind of saying that c2 pawn's not going anywhere. I can take it at my leisure whenever I want. So just focusing on the king development first here in this endgame before doing anything else. And yeah, now we'll have to see how white gets the king into the game.
Yeah, the black king gets to the center faster, but
it's not gonna mean very much.
yeah. The white bishop cannot get to f8 to attack these pawns on g7 and then f6, while white pawns are also protected. In case of some bishop e4, g3 will follow.
Yeah, maybe white will try to go for bishop d6 before the king gets to e6. But I think white also probably wants to get king e2 in before bishop to d3 check is played, but I don't really think there's too much of a
Yeah, black will
difference.
still play to e6, and in case of bishop f8 can either go g6 or maybe first give a check on g3 and then g6.
Maria, if you had this position as either side against either of these players, do you think you could hold a draw?
I think I can.
Yeah. So,
I know
very
that
good
I
odds.
will not often say this that I can hold a draw against the GM, but I think I can hold it here.
So, that's very telling as to the evaluation of this position. Um, but again, if this is a draw, we expect nothing but fireworks for tomorrow's match, which is the same time tomorrow, right,
Yes.
Maria? Okay. So perhaps that was the game plan for both players. The game 11, which was
To give us fireworks.
in game 12. Yeah.
No, of
Well,
course, Ju Wenjun would not mind to finish the match earlier and go home, but they both will play carefully. Push, push, but not over push. Bishop e3, probably with the idea bishop c5, f8, king d5 immediately. I wonder if they will play another 10 moves. I don't think they want to try repeating.
well, yeah. What happens if they get a threefold repetition before move 40? That's still a draw, right?
Yeah, but they have to ask the arbiter to register it. They cannot just shake hands in any event except
Okay.
for resignation.
So what's like if they get a threefold repetition before move 40, they need the arbiter can say play on in that position, right?
No, if it's threefold, the arbiter is agreeing that it's a
The
draw.
arbiter has to, okay.
If the position is so drawn that they don't need to repeat and they think that the arbiter will agree that it's a draw, then they also can ask the arbiter to register an early draw.
Okay. That is interesting though. I think it's definitely good that you're trying to make it more incentivized for the players to play on rather than to agree to a very early draw.
Now, of course, if the players want to draw, they will always find a way to draw even move 5. But having it on the regulations is not a bad thing. It's
Exactly.
also brings some discipline to chess. You know that you have to do everything with the arbiter's observation. You cannot just shake hands and go home. It's also some, I guess it's some respect to the viewers as well, who are definitely rooting for their favorite player. And oh, is it a draw? No, no, not yet. Chat is trying to summon a draw. So now
What do
there
you
are some
think
jumps
what
of.
do you think it says about Ju Wenjun's character to bounce back from a loss with two consecutive wins, one huge one with black? Because I still think maybe we're gonna look back at that win with black and say that was the game that decided the entire match.
Well, I think we have time to actually look through that game now, while we wait for them to finish the game.
It's a good idea.
The question is if we can find it.
If you can pull it up. I have that link that you sent me still has it.
Yeah, I would need to. Okay, let me see.
I'll just resend it to you. Well, the problem is it's not going to be on the chess.com board. right?
Yeah, it's slightly different board.
In the meantime, you guys can get a nice look at my apartment. I'm slightly encroaching on your space there, Maria.
On my space. Oh,
Just a
well,
little bit.
I don't mind.
You don't mind? All right, good.
Okay.
You don't have the cats with you this time, do you?
No, no, I don't.
That's a shame. They were definitely providing good insight and some commentary of their own last time.
I think I can actually lower the game. No, not like this.
But yeah, just for those of you that don't know, Maria owns, I think it's 5 cats,
5 cats, yes.
and she doesn't have them with her right now, but she's got them in spirit with the cat headphones. And you guys can definitely check them out on her channel over at Photo Chess. So I'll drop a link to her channel in the chat.
I think we have it.
Impact Blue is asking if the last game is tomorrow or if they have a rest day. I believe it's tomorrow.
Yeah, they don't have a rest day between games 11 and 12, unlike in the World Championship match which we saw in London. There was a break between games 11 and 12. Okay, so I managed to load the game to live chess. Let's see, I can also
Very
load
nice.
evaluation.
So this is game 10.
Yes, that's the previous game which might have decided the match. So
There we go. So
it transposed into a Queen's Gambit declined. Game 10 was just infinite tears, yes, I agree. For our part of the world, definitely was tears. Do you think she overpushed?
White,
Yes.
Goryachkina,
Well,
did
because
she
she
overput?
definitely had a comfortable position here.
Well, yeah, with the double isolated pawns on the F file, I think most people would prefer white in this position.
Maybe she felt overconfident um, after winning the game 8.
Yeah, I think Ju Wenjun could not have asked for a better response. 2 wins in a row, one with white and one with black. This is definitely the best scenario for her heading into game 11 with the full point lead that she has now. I don't know if you could say that she was overconfident, but wow, I missed this game. Look at that double isolated pawns on the H
Yeah,
file and the F file
twins.
for white. Quadruplets. That is, I mean, yeah, the bishop on G6 is definitely a tall pawn, but I think F6 can be played.
Yeah, the bishop on G6 is completely out of play.
Or maybe just bishop to H5.
Bishop to H5. Well, once you move the bishop away, we attack f5 pawn, and it looks like
That's
black
true.
has to retreat back to protect it, or say, no, I don't care. Could do bishop f3 and bishop e4. Ah, no, you cannot because here it's a check and here it's f3, and the bishop is lost.
Yeah, so this is game 10 we're looking at. Game 11 is essentially just going to be a draw. So we're taking a moment to kind of take a step back and look at how we got to Ju Wenjun's lead, um, which she obtained playing as black here. So definitely
Yeah,
trying to.
of course, that was absolutely unnecessary to lose this game for white.
Yeah, I mean, you go from being the one inducing the double isolated pawns to having two of your own. Um,
This bishop on g6 is really sad.
yeah, even if you do play f6 and bring the bishop back, it's just going to be staring at more pawns of its own. So
And once you move away the bishop, white immediately attacks on f5 uh, and can also bring rook to g1, well, cannot play to g5, but if you played f6, then you weaken g6 square, we can go to g7 square. Just looks so good for white. Also rook e5 I think was possible.
yeah, white even has a better bishop here. I mean, I know you've already touched up on this, but definitely in these end games, a major difference between this game and the current game is that you have bishops of the same color. The game 11 that's going on right now, opposite color bishops. It's very drawish, but in this position, it's definitely white that's pushing, and the reason being is that black's bishop is completely smothered by its own pawns. Um, so essentially, it's just a tall pawn. Whereas white's bishop, it can attack black's pawns, and it can look through its own pawns that are placed on dark squares. So just another factor towards
Yeah.
white's better position here, and they have more chance for play.
So the game ended on move 40.
Yeah, game 11.
Yeah,
So
which means
more chess tomorrow, folks. Stay tuned. The story is not over yet.
we can still finish with the game 10.
Yeah, I want to see how game 10 finishes because even when someone has such a large advantage, it's not over until it's over. So, um,
So then here black. Okay, no, this is where our analysis. Rook e3, rook e3 followed, and here, of course, we have an option to play f takes e3 or king e3. And I'm not so sure what is better, because of course you are undoubling the pawns with f takes e3, but you will never be able to play e4. So this pawn is somewhat useless here and can even become a weakness. Of course you automatically try to undouble the pawns, but in this case white is
that
closing the f file for themselves.
that's a good point. It's kind of weird to think that the pawn is worse on e3 than it is on f2. Occasionally, there are situations in chess where you wish you could just remove one of your pieces because it's more annoying to have on the board than it would be if it wasn't. So maybe this is one of those situations.
Yeah, and here I really liked this idea for white where they can play rook e5, shaking this f5 square, and once black plays f6, they trade the rooks and they attack g6 with rook g1. So having two files is better than one, obviously. And once they trade it, it's it looks more much safer for black.
Yeah, so what ended up happening in the game? Did they take with the f pawn or did they take with the king?
They took with a pawn, and that actually might be a key moment.
Wow.
Because now if the rook goes to g1 and g5 attacking f5, black can simply defend with king e6, and there is no check on e1 anymore. And I don't really see how white can do a breakthrough here.
So what was the evaluation before f takes? Because I know it was favorable for white
Well,
by at least a pawn advantage, right?
yeah, so computer likes both moves almost equally. A little bit more for pawn takes, but computer also tends to evaluate doubled pawn as about 1.5 instead of 2. So undoubling them, computer will probably like.
That is definitely a very interesting conundrum. Keeping the double pawns for maintaining some sort of access to the open file. What's interesting is you're saying, like, let's say king takes and then rook to e8 check. The king will probably go back, right, to d2? Or do you think you'd play the king
Yeah,
f3?
we can check this line. Rook e8 check. King d2. Of course, black will try to keep the rook on e8 on e file, so that there is no such idea anymore to e5. And that brings me back to this position where white could have played rook e5 instead of rook e3, putting pressure on f5 square, also intending to bring another rook, double them on e file.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And once f6 is played, white has rook g1. And this probably will go in favor of white.
Yeah, picking up the f5 pawn. And then you have that whole g file.
Yeah. So now
I
we
was
want to play
wondering,
to g6.
I was thinking of that line you suggested with rook to e5, trying to induce f6. Um, I'm trying to think of like a rook exchange sacrifice where you take on f5 with the bishop. Um, so yeah, after f6, bishop takes f5. And then, like, if they take the rook, you take back with check, and you're getting a passed pawn, a connected passed pawn. And then you take the bishop, and you're hitting the rook on e8. I wonder if that could be
So what you
an
mean
idea.
is this idea?
So
Maybe
you take the
first take
pawn,
on e5 is check.
yeah, take on e5, maybe with like the d pawn, even.
Maybe.
I don't know. Or maybe you're gonna play like f4, f5. I don't know. It just I always feel like in these kind of positions where things could become really tight and closed. Um, if you could sack the exchange and get a couple passed pawns, maybe you could set
Yeah,
rook
this
from a
position is definitely in favor of white. It's a very strong combination of two or even potentially three passed pawns with a bishop. Black cannot really do anything here. Now we probably play bishop f5 first, pushing back the rook and then bringing the rook to the game. Maybe moving the bishop to h3 and then rook g1 and rook g6.
you could even play bishop f7 and then e6.
It could be, but it's better for bishop to be behind pawns, simply guarding them, and then
Yeah.
maybe bringing the rook to g5 or g6 and then e6. The only problem with this sacrifice is that um, the rook, when it takes f5, is not only not protected on f5, where is it? It also has no square to go.
You're right. Okay, so you're saying if
So
bishop takes f5, simply
black's,
just bishop takes f5 back and
yeah,
rook takes
and the rook is
f5
trapped on
and
f5.
yeah, that's definitely true.
So if there was no pawn on f4, then it would definitely work. But here the rook is simply lost, and
Yeah,
it's
that's a good point. So yeah, you're not winning the bishop. Um, that is unfortunate. I
yeah.
was hoping maybe to try to get some passed pawns. But yeah, actually, taking back on f5 is probably just the simplest line. And then once you see that the rook is completely smothered here, that's enough reason why you wouldn't want to try
Yeah,
to.
but the idea is they definitely deserves
Mhm.
attention.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is if the king if the king was a little bit farther, like one rank farther away from the king or the rook on e8, you could take in that situation, let's say king to e6, hitting the rook that's smothered. It's possible, well, it would be possible to take on h5 and then rook takes rook and then you have rook to e1 check, but the king is in time to come back and defend the rook on e8. But yeah, that would be cool, but was not in the position. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think. White, it seemed that White has a lot of different ideas, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out. After you take on F takes E3, and then still though, doesn't it seem like it would at least be in favor of White? Like, like if not winning, it would at least be a draw, don't you think?
It it definitely looks like white should not have lost here. Definitely.
So I
Now
guess we
the
can keep
white's
going.
idea is to push the pawns on queen side where they have pawns minority and opening a file there for the rook. Of course, taking advantage of the bishop on g6 being completely out of play. So now, but now the problem is that when we played before immediately, we allowed black to take the a file for themselves. So wouldn't it be better for white to first bring the rook maybe to a1 or slowly prepare this breakthrough with maybe b3 They are definitely not in a hurry here. Black really doesn't have any ways to improve this position.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think it is interesting though that Black could possibly try to get like a pawn majority on the queen side here, and even though be in what could be considered a worse position, actually have the only decent chances of making something happen on the queen side. So I do agree. Black could have definitely tried to bring the rook over to the a file first. Um, but at the same time, White's also leaving the rook on h1 in the corner, not really doing much. So
Well, black, there is no way to do any breakthrough for black here. For example, c5, c5. Not sure what will. We definitely will not take. That's for sure, because we will be happy to exchange on d4 and open the e file again. So white will try to maybe bring the rook to a1. Not sure. That this looks like, of course, computer evaluates this as big plus for white, but
I'm
it's,
really curious now to see like what actually ended up happening in the game. Did White like actually self-destruct because like was there a big blunder that had been played, or do you think it's just over a series of moves the advantage just slowly kind of faded and then Black
yeah,
had
I
an
feel
advantage?
like this b4 was way too soon, allowing black to take a file, and now
Well,
it's suddenly this rook a2, which white cannot prevent, and so h2 pawn becomes weak, e3 possibly will become weak,
you
h4.
you can't prevent it with well, okay, if we look at bishop b1,
Bishop
then you
b1
can
is
target the
way
b4
too
pawn.
passive. Rook a4,
And then king c3,
rook a3
rook
check,
a3 check, king back to
and
d2.
then rook b3.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
this pawn is falling already. And it's still not lost, but it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, like why even give Black any of this counterplay on the A file?
And that's why I think a b4 was, I cannot say it was a blunder.
But it's definitely like unforced.
Yeah, white has all the time in the world here to prepare. Like they can find a better place for the rook. They can put the king on, I don't know, maybe not on c3, but maybe move the bishop to a better square, put the king on d3. While black has absolutely no way of moving this bishop from g6. Yeah, it's really sad. Also, once the rook moves away from h8, white has an idea of rook g5 and then bishop e2 attacking h5.
That's
So
true. But that
white,
plan becomes very slow when you see the rook infiltrating on the A file. So yeah, before playing B4, rook to G5 and bishop to E2 are definitely
I
great
think I
ideas.
think b3 was the simplest way here to ask black, what are you planning to do to prevent a4, just in case a4 and b5. Put b3, maybe move the bishop to e2, king to g3, rook to g1. Just slowly put more pressure on black.
I think it's definitely possible that when you're playing and you feel like you definitely are the side that's favorited, and you have the advantage, and you know it, then yeah, maybe you do try to over push, and then that can result in moves like b4. So it's kind of like a conundrum where you're the side that's supposed to push for the win, and you know it, and it causes you to kind of slip up and give away the advantage that you had. So white was probably afraid that maybe giving black a couple of pawn moves, they could lock up the position entirely, and there would be no more pawn breaks. But that being said, there's still definitely lots of play to be had, even like you said, on the king side,
Yeah, and the black,
even in a close
we
position.
basically have an extra bishop. Of course, white bishop also doesn't really have much to do yet, but we can always find a better place for it, while black cannot. This is like a small island they can keep the bishop on, while white has many ideas.
Yeah. So
So let's quickly look what
yeah.
happened.
So b4, a takes, rook a8.
And white played b5 here. Black even did not give a check on a2. They thought that it's better to keep it as a threat. So they play c5 using the pawn majority. bc5. Of course, this pawn potentially is passed, but king will easily keep it.
Yeah, and it's important to
While
note
these two
that
pawns can become dangerous.
the b pawn for white is promoting on a dark square, which cannot be controlled by the bishop. So it's even less of a threat to worry
And
about.
this control over a file is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Rook b1, king c7, bringing king to b6 just to block this pawn. b6, so king b7 still blocking the pawn, and now the rook has to protect the pawn on b6, while pawn on h2 is as well now being unprotected. I think rook b2 here was the best move. Okay, she plays rook b5 to attack c5. King c6 is also an option, but this is maybe safer. Rook c8.
Yeah. What's the idea? I
The
think the
idea is to
king.
probably
What do you say?
push.
King c6? Yeah, then you push b7, and then you have to play rook b8.
Yeah,
But
but then the pawn
black.
is falling immediately.
Yeah. Well, yeah. White would try to probably take like the c pawn or the d pawn or something.
So king c6. Yeah, b7 is probably not good, because we play rook b8 and take the pawn.
Yeah, but white's trying to trade off that b pawn for like either the c or the d pawn. I think is the point, right? Or actually, no. The threat is.
It still looks pretty equal to me. I'm not sure what. It looks like white can do whatever they want, and maybe that's what she thought.
Hmm. Well, let's see.
Okay,
Rook
so rook
b5, and
b5, rook
then
c8, bishop e2, f6. Finally bringing that bishop back to the game.
yeah,
Rook a5. Saying you can take it, but I will play rook a5, rook a6 and take on f6. Rook c6. Now rook a7 check. King takes.
well, is there anything wrong with playing c4? Oh, you dropped d5. Okay.
Yeah, No, these pawns are they have some potential,
Yeah,
but
you don't want
once
to
you
give them
push
up.
them, they might become
Weak
weaker.
in targets, exactly.
Rook d7, that's fine, attacking one of the pawns. Now black could play c4 and c3. For example, takes c3, king c2.
You would give up the d pawn just like that.
Yes, but we bring the bishop to game. Well, yeah, maybe it's too rushing.
Yeah, I would leave the pawn duo. Um, because I don't think being able to push to c3 is too worthwhile. Unless you could have gotten rid of your f5 pawn. Because then the bishop would be really good on that diagonal, but
Maybe c4 takes bishop f7.
yeah, that is a good point though. How do you defend d5? You don't really.
You can probably go rook d7, bishop e6, rook e7, but then c3 might become a problem. Like,
Well, the h5 pawn is hanging
because
now,
king
and
c2, bishop b3. And
bishop
we cannot
b3.
take because of c2 and promotion.
Okay, but just king c1.
And then we play rook g6.
Hmm. Well, the bishop's guarding d1.
For now, yes, but we want to play rook d2, pushing the bishop, then maybe taking on h2, potentially.
Well, here you play rook e8.
Yes, rook e8, rook d2, bishop h5. This looks very dangerous. We can bring the king to protect these pawns.
Hmm.
Check. Where do we go?
Oh yeah, that's a big check. Because king b1, then you have rook to c2, check as well. And yeah, I don't think you really want to go king to d1 in the discovery, but
Bishop d1, discovered attack. And now if white takes, it's check and take the bishop. Okay, let's quickly let's go back to what happened.
we get lost in this analysis for
Yeah,
days.
rook
These positions,
e6,
and these players have to
rook
come up with all of
d5.
this on the spot.
So black is giving up d5. I still don't see any problems for white here. Bishop f3, rook d6, rook d3 check, bishop to d5, again cutting off. This bishop cannot go to f7 now.
Trying to keep the rooks on. That's the only move. This black is pinning the rook to the king. So
So it seems like she probably felt that she has to play for a win. Maybe she felt like she uh, missed some.
yeah, she was just over pushing here.
Still pretty comfortable. King d6. It's like pretty drawish. d8. Rook
So
d6.
in this position, Black has the double. Well, they both have double isolated pawns, but white is the only one that has like a pawn chain with the E pawn and the F pawn. Whereas black, all the pawns are disconnected. They're all islands. The thing that black has going for them is the outside pass pawn,
Yeah, so now they push
the
it
C
to
pawn.
c4. And now rook will start annoying the pawn on e3. That pawn which we undoubled.
Yeah, so just a reminder for those of you joining us in chat, this is game 10 of the Women's Chess Championship. Today's game was game 11, which ended in a draw, and Ju Wenjun has a full point lead going into game 12, which will be the final match, unless Goryachkina ties it with a win. But we're looking at game 10 because this was a decisive game for Black, who was played by Ju Wenjun. When Aleksandra Goryachkina with White presumably had an advantage earlier on in the game. So we're looking at how Black kind of turned it around. And it seems that maybe Goryachkina might have overpushed in a winning position and ended up
Yeah, I think
losing.
here was probably a decisive mistake. Rook takes h5, allowing the rook to enter to e2. And now the king is cut off. This one is... This does not look good.
Yeah. Yeah. The king completely on that back rank. I mean, it's not technically a back rank, but might as well be. That
Pondering, yeah.
king, the king has no moves, whereas the black king is very comfortable here on e4 in the dead center of the board.
Yeah, this looks like lost. h5, c3.
Yeah, and that king is being the personal escort for that c pawn. So
It's just a couple of moves, so was she in a type trouble or just impulsive move?
so now here white just has to give a bunch of checks, right? But then you drop like all the other
Yeah,
pawns.
the king is hiding like this, maybe to d1, c1, b1, and then promotes. He can hide behind the rook.
That's true. Yeah, so maybe not taking on e3, but using the e3 pawn as shelter against any checks on the e
Maybe,
file.
yeah, also. So was king b4 a mistake? King b2 maybe was. It's still unpleasant, but the king is in front of the pawn. King c2, king e4. Now we still want to push h pawn. Rook takes on e3, for example. h5. This looks unpleasant, but it might be holdable. Yeah, king b4 is very strange.
That b4 square is not Goryachkina's favorite square on this in this game. Playing b4 once earlier, and king b4
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
Both
Something is
odd.
wrong with that b4 square.
Before that, she was definitely favored. So, all right, maybe I'll see myself out after that. I wanted to point out something pretty interesting. There have been so many decisive games so far in this match. I think 5 of the last 8 games have been decisive. So like more than half the games in that span have been decisive. And you and I have been commentators for 2 of the 3 draws. So
Maybe we should not comment tomorrow.
we'll see. If you're a Goryachkina fan, maybe you would want someone else to commentate. But hopefully we'll see something fun. I think no matter what. I mean, what are the odds? What are the odds that it's a decisive game versus a draw? I mean, so far.
It's a very big odds because Goryachkina has to push no matter what.
So do you think she pushes enough and wins, or you think she pushes too much and she'll lose, and there's like really low chances of the game being a draw?
Um, well, she already won um, three games with white, so she definitely has potential to to win a game. She definitely will play her best shot.
What opening as white do you think Goryachkina is gonna go for?
What opening? What was her best opening?
Well, she played c4 and lost with white, so I don't know if she'll go for that again. What did she play?
She
Her
also
last
played.
win with
She also played
she played c4 and
C4
won.
and 1. Yeah, the
Yeah, so
English.
maybe Ju Wenjun has been studying c4 a lot.
She probably will expect that C4 will be played. She won both with English opening.
Yeah,
Well, no, the second one it was also transposed to Queen's
Queen's
Gambit.
Gambit. Yeah, that is interesting. c4, 2 wins and 1 loss. So it's a gamble for sure.
And she was better
Uh,
in the 10th game for sure. Much
oh,
better.
that is a good point. Maybe she'll go for c4 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because even though she lost the game, she has a lot to learn from it, probably, which is something that's true in all of our games. So who knows? Maybe she'll come back with the c4 line, and Ju Wenjun's gonna have to prove that her preparation is ready for it. But either way, Goryachkina is gonna try her best to win. She has to, otherwise the match is over, and Ju Wenjun will have successfully defended her title. But
Yeah, so we will see tomorrow. It will be exciting.
yeah, so thank you all for watching. I think we're about to wrap this up. Gonna have to raid someone.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Maria, also known as Photo Chess. You can
Yeah, also
follow
shout out
her
to
and all her
Joe.
cats.
My cats will be with me very soon. Actually, yeah, I will also stream in a bit.
Oh, are you gonna raid
So
yourself again?
yeah. Unless
Well,
you
that
plan
makes
to
that
stream.
makes
Stream.
no. I need to go to bed. But yeah, that makes our lives easier. We know who to raid now. And you guys unfortunately won't see the cats, but Maria does have her cat headset, so um yeah. Hopefully though, you guys will stick around her channel. She's pretty great. You can learn a
Oh,
lot from her,
thank
and
you.
you'll see her cats eventually.
Yeah. I will just be on a short break before I start, before I go actually live on my channel. But yeah, guys,
And
stick
we'll put
around.
on that
I'll see
epic
you
music
soon.
again.
Yeah, we will have some epic music for a bit. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, 9:30 p.m. Pacific. and
Right. Have a good night, you
5:30
guys.
a.m. London
Yeah,
time.
we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay tuned. There's gonna be an epic finish. Same time tomorrow. Game 12. Be excited. This
Yeah,
might
it
be the
will be.
most exciting game of the match.
Yeah,
And they've had some
definitely.
pretty exciting games so far. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Maria. And I'll
Thank you,
see
Joe.
you later.
Yeah.
Take care, chat.
Bye, chat. Bye, Joe.